live.
Yeah.
And we are live.
Yeah. All right.
Everything's loading up right now. We going live. All right, perfect. All right, let me get this description straightened out. Let everybody come on in and hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the like button. We got a special guest in the building. Shout out to the co-host CW. We got Self-Suffice on his way.
Where's Self-Suffice? Where is he?
Self-Suffice said he had a wild night last night with a performance out in New London, Connecticut, and
New London. What's that?
Yeah. New London, Connecticut.
I'm in old London, mate.
No. So he's getting his laptop together and everything because he brought it out with him. So now he's setting it all back up. So he's coming right now. So stay with us, family. Let me get this description straightened out so everybody can have the right links and we can get started. Oh wow, okay, come on, help me out here. There we go. We load it up here. They're joining with hit the like button, hit the like. Let's go so we can get this notification can pop up on people's YouTubes like, oh, MC Plays is live right now. I gotta go catch the show.
Yeah.
Log in. All right, here we go.
Yeah, how many folks have what's the record for how many viewers there have been inside? Let's break the
let's break the record of viewers. Hit the share. We've had a max of like 20.
Like it up.
Yes. We've maxed out around like 20 likes. We need to definitely double that this time.
I think we have to be able to double 20 likes.
All right, let me get into our login.
Like what?
All right. We good. Peace to the fam. Peace everybody. My bad. This thing is my login is acting up right now on the Musicoin channel, and I'm trying to change the description. My apologies. My apologies. So I'm trying to figure this out. It's not letting me log in on YouTube. We're gonna have to share screen and play some music in the meantime.
Yeah, we we're just talking about that.
You want to hear some music?
Yes. Shout out to our artist that we will have on, artist and global ambassador that we will have on as a special guest next week, Asterios. We're gonna play a little bit of Asterios right now.
Right on.
He brings a little bit of jazz and blues to the table. Love his instrumental work.
Where was it?
It was in the Musicoin cache. I got so many laptops from Musicoin right now. They're getting lost.
Yeah.
Amongst my Musicoin. Nah, I got, yes, first of all, happy birthday to hip hop. Yesterday was the 45th anniversary. So I had like this big show and I ended up like staying late and then driving back in the morning and leaving like half of my stuff in the car and not knowing which half it was. Happy birthday, hip hop.
Happy birthday, hip hop.
Happy birthday. Shout out to hip hop. That's amazing.
I'm excited about our guests. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, that's what I do.
Hey, Self-Suffice, I'm actually having some technical difficulties with logging into the YouTube so I can get into the chat. So I mean, if yeah, chop it up. I'm still trying to figure this out.
All right.
Cause I don't know why it's not letting me log in.
Yeah, I mean, I could chat for days. Like it's so appropriate that you're on the call with us because, like, you know, fundamental, like the beginnings of hip hop was people of color have had everything taken from them. You know what I mean? So it's like it got to the point where you felt like bad for just doing anything original because if it was black, it was bad. You know, if it wasn't white, it was bad. So I feel like part of what we started to do, our ancestors started to do, was take things from around us and make like a what do they call it, like a simulacra between what we believe, but putting it into popular culture. So you had like the Wizard of Oz came to the Wiz. You had a friend of mine just did a report on how like slavery in the South affected Southern cuisine. And we have all this history of, since we couldn't be original with stuff, we would take the popular culture and make that cooler. And that's how we expressed ourselves. So sampling in hip hop is the essence of that. And the breakbeat, as everybody knows, is not only something that was essential to DJs, but also to the B-boys and B-girls, which we had some dope ones last night. But that breakbeat and that sampling culture spawned everything. And I remember when I had got my record deal with Def Jam, I was definitely sampling like Bossa Nova, and I felt like it was connecting these different cultures that maybe I didn't have access to. And then once I started to read about the law, it was like, I'm in trouble again. Like I can't make my own stuff and I can't sample other people's stuff. I'm gonna just mostly perform live. You know what I mean? Where like ASCAP and CSAC have the licenses or what have you. So this being the 45th anniversary of hip hop, like I'm honored to have you on the show. And as a woman of color, you know, the way you're doing stuff and at the top of your game, like this is I think hip hop itself, the world of hip hop is proud of you. So let me say that. We're proud of you and hip hop is proud of you.
Thanks.
You get the granny off rip for doing what you do. It's essential to hip hop.
This is true. I mean, sampling is everything. It is in hip hop, and it is not something that should be like something so scary. You know what I'm saying? Sampling is sampling. It's something that's a tradition in music in general. So it's, you know, like from jazz, everybody, you know, they try to, you know, you say that everyone is inspired from someone, you know, everyone gets their inspiration from somewhere. We all get our inspiration from the creator. So in fact, we're all sampling, you know, in some way or another. The thing is that there's a way to do it that's the right way. You know, you let everybody know if you contact the publishers. I mean, I work with publishers, and if you're, you know, not doing something that's completely commercial, even if you are, you know, they just want their cut. You know, everybody wants their piece. You know what I'm saying? You know, but if you're not, for example, I know that I work with an Italian music publisher called Bixio. Shout out to Bixio Music Publishing. They do a lot of work with composers for film scores and this type of thing. And so, and these are highly licensable scores. So when other filmmakers come, I know Tarantino really loves that catalog. So in every film, he samples from the Vixio catalog. He loves Morricone. Morricone was basically discovered by the guy, Vixio Cesare, who owned and founded the music publishing company. So like you contact them and you say, hey, you know, we're interested in you know, I have a film. I'm an early producer, you know, I'm a director, I'm young. This is just going to festival. I need, you know, could you give me a break? Like most of the time they will, and make some kind of deal, like maybe a step deal. Oh, if I end up becoming, you know, the next Tarantino, you know, I will need to pay, you know, something. So there's always something you can work out. It's just about how difficult it is. This is the issue that I find, is how difficult it is to find out who owns music rights often, and who you would even approach to, you know, there's no unified copyright registry where you could say, you know, a lot of them from country to country, they vary. So like these, so there shouldn't be, in my opinion, a lot of it shouldn't be a big deal. This is why I love this technology behind Musicoin, to find out who owns something and pay them for it. You know what I'm saying? Give them their fair share. You know, every artist deserves their fair share.
That's one of the things I love about Musicoin too. Like besides just the comparisons to other streaming sites, and besides the different genres in the world connection, this idea that it's becoming easier to actually find out who it is. And like, I think you're being very balanced. You're shouting out the artists, you're shouting out the original creators, you're shouting out the publishers. It makes sense that everyone is human at the end of the day. They have bills, they have families, but like, you know, if you know my reputation, I'm definitely gonna like ask some tricky questions. And one of them is like, yeah, but certain people are used to feeding their families by like taking for granted other people's families. And it's no shade, but like I've had a case recently where I don't like, cause I'm sample phobic, you know what I mean? But a producer made something for me. I was like, this is dope. I'll write to it. People loved it. It was a sample from one of the greatest like poet people that I love. So I contacted his estate. I contacted, you know, his people. His family heard it. They were like, this is dope. Yes, go ahead, right? And then I went ahead and started contacting the publishers and finding the publishers. And that took a minute. Like you said, it would be great to have it unified, like the way Musicoin, like, you know who has it. And that's partially because there are no publishers, but we'll get back to that. Because I don't think it's a problem to have managers and publishers, but like you said, it's unified. So that's kind of like easy on Musicoin now because it's small, but I wouldn't have a problem with bringing them in. But then, you know, so I end up contacting one of the publishers. They're like, cool, we'll do this flat fee. I'm like, that makes sense, flat fee. The other one took a little bit longer, and like, we're going back and forth a little, and it became like, you know, like, I wish I knew you at that point in time, you know what I mean? And that's a credit to you. Like, it is a job to work through legal, you know.
Surely that takes the creativity out as well. You can't be sitting there going, yeah, I've got this track, I've got the beat, I've got the sample, and then you're waiting like a month to get clearance. You're like, that's not really how being a creative artist and producer works.
It was to the point where I asked her, I was like, I actually want to pay you. Like, I want, because instead of it being a flat fee, it was like, okay, this percentage when this, and if this happens, this percent. And I'm kind of like, people know I'm kind of a nerd. Like, they call me the hood nerd. I'm not like the dimmest person, but I was like, you just get the feeling like someone's trying to get you. Like, it's so much verbiage, and it's like, okay, so 40% if this happens, but then if someone samples my sample, this, and I'm like, how would I even know if these things happen? Like, so are you gonna sue me if something happens behind my back? That's what you said. If I don't get like 40% of the 30%, then so, and like, so cases like that, obviously I know the first answer is continue to build the rapport and relationship, and eventually you'll work it out. But like, that can make a lot of people give up.
Yes, it kind of like it inspires. It doesn't inspire creativity. It you know what I mean? It takes it away. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna want to go use a sample or use anything to have to do with anybody else because I have to go through all of that.
Yeah, It's true. It's one of the biggest issues in terms of is licensing and managing legal in these houses too. I mean, you'd be surprised how frustrating it is for how frustrating it is for them too when they're just trying to make money off of getting some commercial usages, and they have to deal with half of the staff are attorneys. You know what I mean? Because there's so much legal red tape to go through in order to process, the very simplest of requests. And it's the state of the industry. And it's unfortunate. And the people who are, and the companies who are, at the very tip top making, all of this enormous, humongous amounts of money, they are, they are few. You could count on one hand how many they are. But they are taking from the many, and they're not able really to control it or monitor it, or in a way that makes any sense or has any kind of real manageability in terms of scale for anybody.
It's not scalable.
Not even for them. It's also out of control for them. No one knows who should do what about it. I was sitting at an industry lunch at a society in New York, and they were like, there was a, Sony was there, Pandora was there, the Copyright Office was there, ASCAP was there. Everybody was there present and complaining about the same thing. There's no central database, and the publishers were saying, hey, we have to do too much work to find out who has the label rights to this, and we have to hire sub-publishers. Every publisher has a sub-publisher in every country all around the world, and they need to manage these relationships. And then those sub-publishers have the collection societies that they're dealing with in every society of the world. And that's like 3 levels away from even, the composition, holders' rights. And then, so it's like they're complaining. The Copyright Office was like, it's not our fault. We're not a private entity. You all have all the money. Look at all the money that you're making. You know what I mean? You need to create a database. And then Sony's like, well, if we make a database, then this company is going to want to use it. And so then what are we, and so then nothing gets done. This is the most innovative platform for change in the music industry that exists, I can tell you. And it's the future of music. It really, truly is. It is over the blockchain and dealing with the PPP license. The PPP license is an innovation.
There we go.
Like it is something that is a game changer.
Now, before we even get too much in depth, because we have been running off already, talking about the issues already.
We're already on fire.
We are on fire, but we haven't even introduced.
She's not a joke. Let's go.
Come on,
let's go.
We're breaking it down already. The issues that, so we have Tamiko Rochelle Franklin in the building. This is Musicoin's legal counsel. She is a intellectual property attorney. And you also work with a group called VIPO?
VIPO, yes.
VIPO.
VIPO stands for.
Already.
I'm surprised, like that. Usually in Europe they go with the VIPO. Usually in the States, the VIPO comes out right away. That's funny.
Pup is a multiple Grammy winner for Miss Spelling.
Did you get your name right though? Did you get your name right? That's the
Yeah, that's why Pup is like so simple, right? Because it's like even back and forth, you can't get it wrong. No, I'm just
See, and I never changed it.
Yeah.
Yo, nobody ever said that on our show before.
Good point.
Yo, she just got you. Yo, Granny Award.
Wow.
Pain under pronunciation. That's what it stands for.
We finally understand.
No,
simple. So no, well, let's get a little bit of background about yourself, where you from, and what led you into the the legal counsel avenue.
And by Pope, of course.
Okay, right on. Me, I am originally born and raised basically in Columbus, Ohio. I got into music. I went to Antioch College undergrad. I don't know if anybody knows anything about Antioch. Antioch is a very small liberal arts school in Yellow
Yeah.
Springs, Ohio.
That's one of the joint. We know Oberlin out there and Antioch out there in Ohio.
Oberlin, yeah, really good music program. Antioch is more for, they call it, our slogan was the boot camp for the revolution. That was on our school t-shirts.
Wow.
I mean, like that is a place with history that I think a lot of people don't.
Progressive campus.
Okay, so that's where you coming from. I get it.
And the first place that I heard the word intellectual property was in an international law class at Antioch. And it was in the context of the GATT, which is a General Agreement on Trade and Tariff that they were doing then. And the context had to do with pharmaceutical drugs being counterfeited by the government of South Africa at the time because they were having an AIDS epidemic. You know, I'm sure perhaps that's something they still struggle with. But the government had declared it a national emergency under that treaty so that they were capable of creating counterfeit AIDS drugs without having to pay the pharmaceutical companies. And I was like, oh, wow, that's like revolutionary. These people, you know, but actually, I mean, think of like the forethought of the attorneys who included that capability inside of that document. And so I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to work like, because in intellectual property, I could see already then was the way it's a double-edged sword. It's the way in which people who want to control and suppress in terms of creativity, innovation can use it to do that. But it's the same at the same time, if you understand the nature of the rights, the philosophical background of the rights and where the rights come from, that they're basically human rights, not corporate rights. They have their root in human rights. The protection of authors, the protection of inventors, you know, so that they can earn a living from their inventions and creations and sharing those inventions and creations with us, you know. Right. So like companies kind of got a little bit crazy.
Let me stop you right there just to like for people who have been watching the show or new to our show. A couple episodes ago, we played Childish Gambino, This Is America, and we talked about how a lot of the history behind music, like Tamiko's saying, has been intertwined with the history of people's rights from the beginning. Some of the first records were minstrel records. Actually, as far as we know, the first record was a minstrel record, right? So this idea of like having a master and you know, the master is a musical term, but it's also like a slavery term, right? There's all these things that are literally, there's all these things that are intertwined between like what's happening in law and what's happening with human rights and what's happening with music. And it seems so ridiculous, but like the more you go back, the more you see, wait, this is real. Like I just read something from Frederick Douglass from like, you know, 48, like 1848 or something. And he's talking basically about like coon rap, you know what I mean? But it wasn't rap, but he's talking about like these minstrel groups and what they're portraying and how, you know what I mean? So I just want to say like, thank you for continuing this because we talked about it from more of the fan and music side, but you're showing how it translates into the legal side and how it isn't just like a law or a sample, but it actually unconsciously, I think it reflects how we think about ourselves as humans exchanging with each other.
That's right. And that is because I really, really felt that in that moment, the intellectual property law is the human rights law of the future and of our future as people. You know, the right to technology, to access technology, the right to have content. We were talking a little bit before we access the content before we went live about net neutrality and what it means and the importance of net neutrality for what I call, in fact, content neutrality, which is what, you know, the freedom to treat the internet like a library, like you go there, you know, and you can pick and choose freely. No one is, you know, that no one is particularly driving you. Oh, there are only, you know, certain aisles in the library you can go to and everything in those aisles is determined by a particular corporation. You know, like that's not how a library works. Well, the internet shouldn't work that way either. So we're saying that net neutrality, it can easily be translatable into content neutrality, that everyone's content should be treated equally and just as importantly, and that the preference in terms of what you see should come as a result of your search history, like what happens in terms of, what you're looking for and what the, natural kind of algorithms behind the search mechanism generate for you as a particular human being, not necessarily, and then we already have pop-up ads and
being targeted. You could be now you're being targeted.
That's a whole nother conversation. But it's at least not filtering your results. It might give you results and advertisements, but those are also supposedly to help you also as a consumer and to give you more focused options. Okay, that's a whole debate.
Yes, it's supposed to help your momentum.
Your search
definitely helps you make decisions faster.
I think it is the battle that's going on at the moment. No, there is a battle going on here. Like I said, it is being fought at the moment, so it is an important discussion.
It is.
Because I'm old enough to remember when the first internet first coming up, and it did seem like a revolution, and it was almost like a home for the weirdos and the revolutionaries. And now it's been colonized by all the big corporations who are trying to control it. There's the whole issue at the moment with YouTube knocking people off. There's the whole Alex Jones thing, who I detest Alex Jones, but there's all that thing where, do they have the right to totally kick someone off a platform, even if you totally detest his sort of views? Again, that's a whole other philosophical sort of debate.
No, but it's related. I see what you're saying.
It's curating opinion. And like you said, when you search stuff, we get so, you get curated on YouTube totally. What, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And then you do end up going in that little sort of bubble that we all end up sometimes if you go on social media.
I'm sure there's people that just have cats on their timeline now. Like that. I'm sure there's people drowning in cat posts because.
Yeah.
Hey, my family YouTube channel is filled with all family vlogs and kids playing with slime and stuff like that. Like, because my children, that's all they want to look up on YouTube. So guess what? YouTube only suggests watch this, slime this, slime that.
It's all right. It could be worse. That's not too bad. I think that's all right. Yeah.
That's a good thing. Ultimately, the next generation always does some ridiculous thing that just makes us have hope again, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't that bring us to, why we're going, decentralized and utilizing platforms like Musicoin and, all these decentralized cryptocurrency platforms, because you now have control of your content, and your intellectual property. And to even switch it to, that topic of the with the terms and service of Musicoin, with you being, an intellectual property, lawyer, intellectual property rights, like when you look at the intellectual property rights with Musicoin, what indications or what do we need to know, specifically about this section?
This section.
Or is it clear and cut? Easy to understand.
Well, see, it's clear to me. No, I'm just kidding.
I should hope so, yeah.
But I wrote it. So.
Yeah.
No, this one, it has a lot to do about the intellectual property rights that are owned by the service.
Okay.
Which is something actually we're dealing with right now. Some issues related to that. But more so, I think interesting is if you go down to the section 3 and you talk about the content licenses.
Yes.
Now, can you talk a little bit more about what rights are being transferred from the artist to the other users of the service and to the service itself? So that's an important thing to look at under any terms of service. I would look at that. Ours is it's wordy, yes, you can see, but it pretty much gives you the right. It's not claiming that forever and always the service owns, and you will see this in most online service provider terms of contract or terms of service contracts, is that it's a irrevocable license to use your stuff, transfer it to other third parties, that anything you upload is no longer under your control, that it belongs to the service and things like this. So really here we are, I think, giving a pretty humane, it's a very humane, we ask for a humane license and we give humane terms in exchange. There is the ability to, so termination is important to look at. So when you are uploading in any terms of service, and this one too, important things to look at are the termination terms, like what happens to your content after you terminate your account. Like, is there an ability for you to have all of your content removed, or does the service maintain the ability to monetize, not just monetize, but, monetize your content or use your content for any reason, for any purpose that they see necessary, or to trade it to other companies. It becomes, like a lot of times people don't understand that, like, your content that you upload to Facebook, to YouTube, to these platforms, the most commonly used Instagram platforms that we share content on, that the content that we share, you can terminate your account. That content is theirs forever. Like, whatever you've uploaded, that's theirs. Like, you've practically given it away. There's nothing that you get back from that user-generated content that you fed to them. This is a big part of VIPO, and what what the work that VIPO does in terms of identifying that users are generating incredible amounts of intellectual property protected content, and just kind of, giving it, to these service platforms in exchange for nothing. One of the huge things that I think is beautiful about the platform, Musicoin platform as well, is that there are certain actions and like commenting, liking, starring, that give users that pay, that pay users return for their interactions with the service. And that can just, that is something that can be built upon,
Highlight footnote to that. We don't talk about that enough. People who are fans of musicians actually get paid. Like on the show, when we listen to artists and I see people commenting and liking a song, I'll tip them. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is dope. You're participating. Thank you for showing love to other artists. You know what I mean? Or it could just be a fan that's like, doesn't have any music on, but they can get it. And I think you're right. It changes the way we just think about exchanging with people, where like, a lot of times the, again, I'm not gonna apologize, because you know what I'm saying, and you know what my point is. Like, this remains a theme. There's like a slavery culture, like rape kind of culture in America, and it crosses over in these things where like, I see these business meetings and these startup meetings where people are talking about their clients as like these potential targets and this and that. And to be able to be like, hey, you can get paid. Like, hey, I like what you're doing, whether you rap or whether you do rock and roll or whether you just listen to music while you're at work. Like, you can benefit from this too, both financially and just like in terms of being liked and commented, And I'll say that on your side too, because you're like the opposite side of the spectrum of just a fan who normally just like consumes and pays, where now they can get value. You as an executive and someone who's writing these laws, like, I like that joke about, it seemed pretty clear to me, right? But like, you on the other side, as you're describing this, and Neil, tell me if I'm right, and Pup, tell me if I'm right, but it sounds refreshing to hear a legal consultant, an attorney, a legal consultant.
No, definitely. No, definitely. Because, my image of the legal person is someone who hasn't got any creativity, who doesn't understand that. Yeah, that's my stereotype of a music industry lawyer, is like, they're not really into music. It's like the thing when you meet a lot of people high up in the music business, they seem like the people who are not into music. They Well, it's like the A&R people always seem to the people with the worst dress sense and the worst taste in music. But so no, it is refreshing to actually hear some talk about the actual creative process and money to the artists.
It feels like we're all on the same team.
Yeah. Do you think this whole thing with the blockchain? This is what a question that you know, do you think it can be controlled? Can the corporations take over the blockchain? Is it 100% resistant to that? Or obviously, I know for a fact, because I've been at some of the meetings where big music companies are trying to get involved in this. So, like they're trying to do with the internet, so like, you know, your Amazons and your Facebooks and your YouTubes and all that. Can the music business control all this thing, or is it unstoppable? Do you think, blockchain? I mean, that's quite a deep question.
It's a great question.
That is a big question, bro.
Well, we asked the big questions on MC Plays, yeah. Right, you got 10 seconds to answer that. I know, that's fine.
Okay, countdown. No, I think that because, I mean, as much as we're internet, the blockchain is dependent on the internet and dependent on electricity and dependent on, you know, these sorts of, you know,
servers.
Yes, that can technically be controlled by the powers that be. You know, then it is a potential target. Which is why it's important to have communities, you know, like this community, and to be a part of communities and to be active and to be informed about the nature of our rights in relationship to these types of mediums. And as I said, the more, and this has to do a lot with people's involvement and participation. It's kind of community-based, kind of, the internet is such a huge tool for awareness. It can be such a positive tool for, you know, gaining momentum behind certain issues. Like we were able to, with the internet, prevent, you know, ACTA from going through. We were able to prevent the attacks on net neutrality up until recently. You know, we were able to prevent these things leveraging the power of the internet as a tool. And so while we have these tools at our disposal, it's imperative to connect with each other and to not use them to isolate, you know, ourselves, but like to use them to in fact empower and connect, you know, individuals with each other, and to build, you know, a stronger base for a platform from which we can make change more readily. A lot of people say, I mean, I read something at some point that talked about social change coming as a result of 30%. You know, there's always a third. The tipping point is 30% of people. So it's like, if any particular issue in any particular community that needs to be changed, you know, you're always trying to garner enough support, you know, to make change occur. And that is just a lot easier with this kind of technology, and putting this technology in the hands of everyone, especially people in developing nations, people in, you know, have the fact that like smartphones are, you know, more and more accessible, cheaper and cheaper. It imposes an environmental issue on one hand, but then it also it empowers us in another way. You know, the fact that English, you know, has become like a global language, you know what I mean, is imperialist on one hand, but then it empowers us in another way.
Well said.
So there are a lot of things that are like that. Almost everything in the world you will see is that way. It can be looked at, you know.
So are you saying we're in the space to actually build a hub that we can protect ourselves from that type of you know, penetration from the big corporations, you know, that's trying to infiltrate and take control? If we as a community, you know, build this central hub, it's harder for them to, you know, penetrate.
That's right. And then to link with other communities as well. Like, what I love about artists is that every artist has their own community. Like, artists come from a community, they're a part of a community, they have a listening community, you know what I mean? So they like have a network, you know, artists are network people, you know, they wouldn't be able to survive otherwise. And so then leveraging the power of all of these networks is an extremely it's a powerful thing. It's a very empowering thing. The thing is to realize that is possible, and realize the value and potential that exists in every artist and the value that they bring to the platform. And not just this platform, but every platform that they participate on. What about their Spotify following? What about their, you know, YouTube following, like their Facebook following? You know, this is one thing that I also like about the service is that it links back. You can use the, you know, you can link back to all these various communities that these artists participate in and bring them all back to the platform to listen to and stream the music from these various, it links their various user communities, you know, listening communities, and can bring them back to this point.
This is a great point, because I think to a degree, when we talk about not letting like the corporations and the overseers do things, to a degree, we're kind of in the same paradigm, right? We're like, okay, we're gonna fight them, and that's their paradigm. So ultimately, we know the honest answer is no, we're not gonna win at that. But the way we treat our communities, right, and the way being more human to each other becomes more evident. I think of the Black Panther Party, right? The Black Panther Party, they started giving out free lunches, right? That was more powerful than anything that they talk about. Like, you know, they're always shown walking around with guns and so forth, and these kind of scare tactics they use. But it's really to overshadow that they did things like educate kids, you know, and give them books and give them luncheons. As we know, what did the government do? The government started adopting these free lunch programs that like we take for granted nowadays, right? Yep. So I think we need to think about, one, like not letting people take over. Yep. But if we follow that to its real honest conclusion, what that means is we have to have healthier ways of working with each other that make it embarrassing for them to use those tactics.
That's right. Exactly.
And I like how you highlight that artists have that opportunity already with your Instagram followers, your Spotify, your Musicoin followers, your mailing list. Like we can do that.
That's right.
So I have a question that taps back into you know, protecting our rights and our content. You know, uploading my music to Musicoin, it puts it on, you know, this blockchain, and I still have, you know, the rights to my music, but I agree that this service, Musicoin, this server can use my content and distribute it, you know, however so, whether it's through downloads and streams. And do I do this as an artist now, moving into the future? Do I want to more focus on putting my music on the blockchain and protecting it, that and having that solely protected, or do I still want to, you know, go get it copyrighted, get it registered with BMI, and put it on, get it through a distribution company so it's on all the other streaming platforms also? Like, is there a difference in protection?
Yes, there is a difference in protection, but not in terms of copyright.
Okay.
In terms of copyright, the music that you, once a work is fixed in any medium that it's able to be perceived, you know, perceived, then it is protectable under copyright. Now, whether or not you have the certain benefits of copyright, that's international law. That's as a result of an international convention called the Berne Convention. Okay, and the United States is a signatory to that. Unfortunately, one thing that the United States does, and what that says is basically that there's no registration requirement for people to receive a benefit from copyrighted works in terms of authors. For authors to receive the benefit of exclusive rights under copyright law, there's no registration requirement anywhere in the world for any signatory to that convention. And most countries are signatories to that convention. So it effectively, globally eradicated and eliminated the need for registering a copyright in order to exercise the exclusive rights under copyright law to that work. So
that's like saying that as long as I can prove that I have the original copy, I can prove that I made the original, that I own the exclusive rights, regardless, without registration.
What happens is, this is what happens.
But not without an attorney.
This is what happens, and practically, you know, is that you might encounter a dispute. Typically, authors don't have an issue with saying, with anyone claiming that they're not the original author, unless it happens, and somebody says, oh, well, I made this song, and it's that exact same beat, it's that exact same melody, you know what I mean, as this, and I made, you know, and then it becomes an issue. What was the date of creation? When can you, and whether or not you can prove certain elements related to creation. And then you're in court, you know, and that would be in court anywhere where someone challenged it and said you didn't have a right. You have to go to court and actually prove that you have a valid copyright. Registration would not, this is the benefit of registration. Registration would require that person to prove you do not have a valid copyright. If you don't register the work, if you are challenged, if your rights as an author are challenged, then you need to prove the validity of your copyright. So that's a benefit of registration. Also in the United States, there's certain other benefits of registration, like if you register a work in the Copyright Office of the United States, you get statutory fees. If you get statutory fees if you register within 3 months of publication of that work. Or like, so if someone infringes your work, you automatically get a certain amount of money, you know, based on the infringement of that work. But you would still need to go to court to get that judgment that would say you are owed that money. And I'm telling you, I'm primarily a transactional attorney, but I had the eye-opening experience of actually being involved in litigation, in federal litigation in New York related to intellectual property rights. And I'm telling you, it took us 2 years to get before a judge. And that is like, yeah. And you just don't have, I'm telling most people, that kind of time or money. And then, you know, or patience, you know, by the time you get in front of the judge, you just don't care anymore. You know what I'm saying? If you're smart, you don't care anymore. Or like, you better have billions like on the table. You know what I mean? Like that you're gonna lose to motivate you to participate in the system. It's ridiculous. You want to avoid lawsuits at all costs. Oh, which is something that in the TOS, we have a dispute resolution section, which is really, I think it's really important because it is regulating any disputes between users in the service to online dispute resolution, which is provided through either the American Arbitration Association or JAMS, which is a nonprofit online dispute resolution service provider also. I think it's important to keep disputes out of courts for everybody involved. You know, it's easier to just kind of, if you can't, I think we even have like a 60-day resolution period where we will try with users or whomever has a dispute with the service and is bound by the terms of service agreement to resolve the dispute in and of ourselves before anybody, you know, it's ridiculous. Nobody wants to deal with it. So that is about copyright registration. There's a lot of intricate things that you can that help with that would benefit artists in terms of registration. I don't think a lot of it is necessary, but it's really cheap to do anyway now. It's like $50. You can register a copyright through the Copyright Office. You can do everything online now. That's one of the things that we do at VIPO. We provide artists with support in terms of copyright registrations, any intellectual property registration in the United States. Because
so just in general, what does VIPO do that people normally wouldn't expect to be done for them?
Well, we do that. For artists in exchange for like, I don't know, the same amount of service fees, another $50 or we would register. We also provide, now I'm like all distracted, like reading. We also provide,
chill out, Pop.
We provide DMCA support. What would they not expect us to do? We do a lot of,
I mean, first of all, you're in your fishbowl, right? So you're swimming in it and you're like, hey, this is what I do. And I come from this activist legal background. What's good? You know what I mean? But like, sometimes people point out to me like, wow, what you do is amazing from outside. Like, so for instance, you being a lawyer who has the best interests of the community and the artists and the business owners in mind, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a feeling that BIPO is similar. Whereas like, what does it do that would not be stereotypical if I was saying, hey, there's this organization that helps you with law? And I would be like, like
well,
what?
I think we actually we build technology that helps to assist in the process of empowering people, and particularly creators. So we're right now are interestingly enough working on a system that we call it's a certified sovereign identification system, and it connects. Yeah, it's a CSID. And it's it would be actually basically what we envision it doing is it would build a unified database, user by user, artist by artist, creator by creator, and allow them to carry with them an ID that would transfer across platforms and connect them to their work. Yeah.
So this is world. Can we just get clear that this is worldwide though? Yeah, because we're getting a lot of talk about American copyright, and I'm just conscious that the music community is not just American.
South London in the building.
You know what? I know that. Yeah, that's right. But a lot of the most of the online service providers that you would want to ensure that your content is protected, I don't want to say against, but in the face of cooperating with them, are located in the United States. And a lot of the terms of service agreements that you sign are regulated to the jurisdiction of the United States. And so, you know, like your ability to sue these companies in your home country is limited. And so establishing your rights, this would allow, like, and this is why VIPO, I believe, is so useful. We work with a lot of content creators who are sitting like in Brazil, sitting in places that like it would be impossible for them in Asia, in China, and Singapore, and you know, and Korea. Like it would be impossible for them to enforce their rights as creators in conflict or in dispute with online service providers in any other form, you know, like or using any other tools. So their American copyright registration becomes a powerful tool for them to protect their work, even though they're sitting in the middle of nowhere. And VIPO is a conduit through which they can do that. We do that for them. We empower artists worldwide to obtain that tool and to be able to effectively.
No, that's a good distinction, because I think a lot of people, again, it's not intuitive. A lot of this legal stuff is not intuitive. And someone would think like, if I'm not in America, then this doesn't protect me. And you're saying it's almost the opposite. Sometimes.
It's exactly the opposite.
Okay. That's
because obviously that's the thing with copyright. It's so confusing that there's so many different copyright whichever country you go to, and surely one of the advantages of the blockchain thing is there is no borders, you know, on the blockchain. You know, it's one thing, which is the sensible way to do it. But obviously, like you said, getting all the music companies to get one single sort of system is, I don't know, is it impossible? Probably, I don't know.
I don't think that, I mean, the issue is that it's not, I mean, they would love it. I think they would love it if there was one system, you know, because they would cut their costs tremendously in terms of administration.
Yeah, I think anyone who's like really thinks this through, again, a lot of times people, I don't know if it's the stress of life or the paradigms we're in and the fear, but a lot of times people don't think things through. So like, I know that there are people within the industry, like I just read an article about like some like $35 billion in unclaimed samples and royalties. And like,
ridiculous.
There are people who are actually benefiting from sitting on that money. But they probably would benefit more if they thought it through and saw how can we keep this circulating? Because there would be a lot more activity. You know what I mean?
A lot more money. Like I saw in the white paper from Musicoin that there were like 5 trillion plays of music online. And that's just music online of users that currently exist. Like, can you imagine like how much money there is yet to be made in music? And that just is for everybody. That's like pennies from heaven. That's like money, you know, just like,
it's
like
money
everybody's swimming in money, you know what I'm saying? So like, you've got to believe that the industry is chomping at the bits to try and figure out how to get to that kind of money.
I mean,
you know, all of us are. So like everybody.
But surely the music industry is trying to keep that for itself. That's what the music is done for history.
They try, but the internet really, and they did a good job up until the time when, until the internet came along, and then it wasn't so easy anymore. And then much less internet enabled devices through which people could carry music with them and access music with each other, you know. So it's like, it's already blown wide open. There's no more, you can't put it back in the box. And they do understand that. The thing is now, just like you're saying, I'm saying you because your face is on the screen, but for me, it all comes down to the standards, setting a new standard, a high standard, showing what can be done, what can be achieved, and the potential of it in terms of this community. In this platform is.
And you mentioned that previously. You said, you know, one label might want to build it, and it's not even that they can't build it. It's that they're thinking, wait, if we build it, then this other person's going to go. So it's this very oppositional thing where like we're stopping ourselves from doing things we could do just because of that paradigm.
That's right.
I don't know about y'all, like as recording artists before, but like I had pretty much given up on the streaming sites. You know, I had spent years not really making $100 or barely making $100 from my streams. So even the idea that this was actually an income source, you know, that reawakened for me, kind of helped me. And then once I did that, it's funny because once I got more active with Musicoin and seeing I was actually getting paid before 4 months and knowing what I could get paid and could get interested and participate, I actually started getting better plays on Spotify and thinking more about what I wasn't doing as an artist, to be honest with you, being responsible. But like the paradigm shifted, right? So it's not just this technology. My paradigm for what I do as an artist, that this is a viable means of getting some of my income, carried back over into things I already was using, but in like a jaded, cynical way. You know what I mean? Had y'all found that too, where you had started to give up on streams or not take them seriously?
Yeah,
I think I said before, I didn't even get involved with that stuff. To me and all my friends, they'd be like, fuck Spotify. Seriously. They'd be like, you're being paid so little, it's not even worth the effort, like to get like $2 every, like, you know, if you're lucky in a year, like what's the point of that? And so I know I'm come from the community of the underground artists where they're like, well, no, that's not what we do. You know, we sell our vinyl, we sell our downloads, we do this and we do that. We do our own events, you know. So yeah, I don't know. Even now, I'm still waiting, you know, to see. Hopefully, it will build up, and we can all make a living out of doing this. But I'm still to be convinced, to be honest.
I mean, I agree too. I sat back and said, you know what? I'm only putting it on these platforms for the access, the easy access, you know. But I'm really focused moving forward to having it on like platforms like Musicoin, where it's a direct access with the fans and building up, like you said, this community and this hub. You know, I guess I'm kind of jaded. Yeah, I'm jaded. Why work with those streaming platforms when it's not going to benefit, you know, me to my most potential, and also at the same time I can make it benefit, you know, nonprofit organizations, fans, and everything like that. So
yeah, salute to you doing that. By the way, for people who are new to this, he's not speaking theoretically. Pup raised funds through a song, so it wasn't like you know, you could give money or you could just play the music, and every time you were playing. And we all said, yo, play this track. It's going to good cause. And he ended up doing a live event in the community. Yes. And brought food and clothes to people
And-
who
and
were
it's
less
something that
fortunate.
I want to keep.
So-
I appreciate that too, and that's something that we can really do.
Bro, like so many people talk about this, and it's funny. They talk about how the music industry would be like the last to do something like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, musicians, they're egotistical and this and that. And they're like, okay, blockchain is going to do this with energy and save people. But like, you actually did it with the music already, early. You know what I mean? So I'm going to continue to salute you for that. And we have to, because like this conversation we're having right now, that's what makes a difference. Us saluting healthy paradigms that are happening right now, regardless of what's being talked about.
Yes. And TR, you say you have like a new software that you're developing, that you're working on, that it's going to be a hub for us artists to register our content. Like I'm already thinking like, okay, that's going to be my go-to place to register. And now I'm registered there, and I'm registered on Musicoin's blockchain. That's proof that it's my intellectual property and everything. So like, I'm already like, I'm in the future with it.
Right on. Yeah, that's the idea.
Can I just say one thing? Can we get some questions? Can I just say one thing? Can we get some questions in the chat room? Because we sort of said we're going to do that. We haven't really been doing it.
What up, y'all?
So can you, if you put some questions, put them in the chat room, and we'll shout them out. Maybe get on there, because we haven't really done that.
I've been going back and forth with people in the chat, just like you know, acknowledging them, but like, yeah, please ask questions in the chat. Thank you for being here. First of all, they're loving this show. You know what I mean?
Great.
Yeah.
We got 17 likes. We got 17 likes. What was the goal before we went live?
More
than 20, right? More than 20. Let's go. So I
shout out Elena.
Yes.
Shout out Ed. Shout out Sound Phaser always. Glitch the Rip. That's a new one. It's always a new name that I should have let Pup try to pronounce it.
Should have, man. Sound Phaser was going on about the Bern Convention in the chat. I saw as well. He mentioned, because I know that's the original copyright thing. I don't know. Is there an easy explanation what the Bern Convention is? Or?
So the Bern Convention for protection of literary and
so people know
work.
Yeah.
It is an international agreement governing copyright, which was first accepted in Bern, Switzerland in 1886.
I know it's the first major one. I know it's the first major copyright law.
It definitely took a long time for the majors to sign up. I think the United States only became a member in the 80s or something. We were like really dragging our feet about it just because.
Really?
Yeah. That's a surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean,
I gave you the alley-oop. I was like, really? I knew he was gonna be like, oh.
Because like I said, it was a revolutionary thing. I mean, I think Victor Hugo was maybe one of the author of Les Miserables, you know, whatever.
Yeah, lucky to get Pup saying that.
He was one of the first proponents of the Bern Convention, and it had in its root human rights. It's a human rights law, basically, to protect authors. So, there was a lot of pushback in the United States, where we basically view intellectual property as an economic right, not as more so than a human right. But it is both. In my opinion, it is a human right. It's an economic right for humans. You know, that should be its main. That's its main impetus, and that is the reason why it was created. It was not created with in 1886 with the view in mind that corporations would own and control, like so many creative works. Yes. You know, corporations have become the storehouse of our creative works, and that's the legacy of humanity. We have to really start thinking about that. The same thing with inventions, the same thing with cures, and the same things, with improvements to technology.
Yes. Shout out
TR. Sharing ideas. We can't stop sharing ideas.
And shared using blockchain and cryptocurrency, as far as I'm concerned.
Keep these questions coming in the chat. We looking and definitely want to before we get off, make sure that any brilliant questions or comments, you know, this is the time to ask them.
Yes, yes.
And I wanted to, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to reiterate that.
I wanted to say that any questions that you guys have regarding the TOS, you know, I know that our discussion here has gone all over the place, but any specific questions that you have about the TOS, be sure to go ahead and forward any of them to me at legal@musicoin.org. And if it's not in terms of legal advice relating to the terms of service, I'm going to shoot you right back and answer any clarifications that you might need regarding specific terms that are unclear. You know,
so questions go to legal@musicoin.org.
Any comments if you're hating on any particular aspect of the TOS.
Is it okay if Self-Suffice forwards his album to you just to go through all the samples that he hasn't cleared? Is that all right? It might take you like a few weeks, but you don't mind doing that for free, do you? Is that all right? Like,
it's so sad that like
three dodgy ones in there. He needs like a phone call to like sort out.
One of the things I actually did on this album was have no samples. So I have my producer King Solomon. He's a hip hop person and jazz historian, and it's a beautiful album, you know. But I'd be lying if I didn't say part of why I've been working towards this was being sample phobic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Literally, like it's like cool. I can actually feel good about playing my album, maybe pitching it to a video game or a movie, you know. By the way, Spike Lee, get back to me. You did that contest and I pitched you the thing. I haven't heard back. 40 Acres of the Mule. What up, y'all? Y'all sleeping? I want to be like, you gotta have it. You gotta have it season. But yeah, nah, you're right. Like Neil, you got the jokes, but it's based in truth. So can I want to ask you a question.
I'm from the attitude of like, if you do the sample and you get caught, you've not done it well enough, you know.
Well, actually, one thing that's
happening. Don't be too
now,
obvious. There's a million tunes out there. Yeah.
Along the lines of what you're saying, and the lines of like the culture of like, you know, running from cops and like spray paint, like going back to the original thing for people who didn't have much. It wasn't just like, let's do something original or something within our community. It was also like, sometimes it's like, how can we get away? Like there's just a dope podcast on the low lives. For people who don't know about the low lives, like in New York, everybody knows the low lives. This was a group of people, basically when the Decepticons and the low lives and like hip hop back in the 80s, early 90s, like they would go in stores and like have a well-designed like boosting mission, and they just run through the mall and come out with mad low and come back to like Brownsville and different spots in Brooklyn and have like Ralph Lauren. And this helped his valuation when Ralph Lauren went public on the IPO. He had like this huge valuation, but like it was heavily fueled by the low life culture. You know what I mean? Now, were they boosting? Yes, they were boosting, but they loved Ralph Lauren and did more for Ralph Lauren than anybody who bought anything for him, right? So it's like,
self-suffice.
Problematic.
Do you know the story about do you know the story about the New York blackout then of the late 70s? You know, when they had the blackout in New York.
I was conceived in that blackout.
What? Yeah. Yeah, you probably were. Yeah, you were. Yeah, well, you know the story about the hip hop connection to that, like, because the lights went off, the whole electricity went off in like New York and the surrounding area for like 2 days. There was mad looting in New York. You know, I mean, it was during the height of like Ed Koch and like basically New York, Bronx gone, no funding and all that. But they said like overnight, suddenly like there was like one sound system in New York doing hip hop. Like the next weekend, there was like 10 sound systems because they robbed all the music stores. So suddenly there's speakers and turntables. And I've heard some theories saying that kick-started hip hop as much as like, because they suddenly had all the equipment to do these block parties in the Bronx.
Right. It's exactly what it is. You know, making lemonade. You know,
obviously.
As far as culture. Now, obviously, we have to say like these are things out of necessity, right? These are things out of necessity we're talking about. And for me, I would like to just sample, you know, but I've gotten to a place where it's like, you know what, I'm just not going to do samples. But the height of that, of like trying to do samples and not get away with it, and the art of like flipping the sample and all that did inspire a lot of creativity. You know, how can you flip it? How can you dig deeper? And now, ironically, I think partially it's because of the law, but we have people who don't use any kind of sample or acousticness or any history research of the musicians who came before them. And on the other side, we have people who got the lawyers and the clearance, so they just literally take full songs and rap over them. And it's like, it's two kind of ridiculous, scary things. You know what I mean? So one thing that I like is like artists, and it's funny you said this because this goes into my main question I gotta ask you before you leave. Please, Neil, don't end the show right now in the middle of our sentence.
What?
Here it is.
Mute him.
I think one of the best things to prevent like other producers from getting your stuff and the ultimate digging in the crates is to find a band who's like active now and get to them and be like, yo, can I sample this track? This track is dope. And can we work together? And then I think about what we're doing.
Make your own song. That's what I say to my students. Make your own samples. Yeah, live. Yeah, exactly.
Make it live. And like, I'm a rapper, but you play bossa nova, and I love that. Yo, I'm sampling you, and no one will know where that sample came from because you just made it. But then I think about Musicoin, and I'm like, in a sense, Musicoin allows that. So my question to you, oh my God, and they know I've been talking about
waiting for. He been talking about this all year.
Like I always say this one thing, and like I've asked certain people, and they're like curb it or like answer a different question. So, no pressure.
He's looking worried now. Oh.
This is like the most important.
Oh, sorry, we lost connection.
No pressure. How do these new terms of service deal with that? Does it make it easier for me as an artist to connect with the other artists and just be like, yo, your stuff's on Musicoin. I'm going to sample that, put a smart contract together where you get part of it and I get part of it.
Yes, I don't understand what was complicated about the question before. Yeah, you should totally, it should very much enable cooperation, the platform. How would it not? What are you thinking? Like that it would be maybe an internal issue with the rigging or something like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm going to listen to this 50 times because old dude is my partner or whatever. I think that you have to, I think gaming the system is one thing, but I think using the system in a way that benefits two artists who can collaborate is a completely different thing and totally kosher and part of what the platform is made for. So I think in terms of fostering that kind of creativity and new.
Walk me through how that would happen in your mind, ideally, in the ideal way. I'm an artist. I go on Musicoin. I'm listening to other artists. And I go, ooh, I like that. What would be the idea or an ideal? Maybe there's a few ways it can happen, right? Because there's flexibility. But what would be an ideal way that would happen?
You know what?
Let's say it's you, Tamiko, because you did the opera move a few seconds ago. So say you're an opera singer and you come on my hip hop channel. You want to sample hip hop background for your next opera. What would you ideally do at that point?
Okay, well, I would contact you and I would say either on this platform or through some other means, social media.
Right through this platform is fine.
Yeah. So I would contact you. I would tell you this particular track inspired me, like I'm doing this and that project. Like, do you think that we could cooperate? I was thinking maybe I could use, a sample of this. And then you all come to an agreement. You have to realize,
So I say, yo, let me check your stuff. I like what you're talking about. I like your style. Dope. Let's do it. And then I say, what percentage do you want in the smart contract?
Yeah. You would just ask them. Yeah. How much?
How much I mean, it seems fairly simple, isn't it? It's only,
It's super simple.
It's crazy because we feel like we need a third party to be doing so, to be making these type of contracts with each other as artists when we don't need that.
Get rid of that third party. Yeah.
No, whatever this person thinks is fair is like whatever you agree, those are things that you agree to. And it is really, truly that simple. 100 breaks into 1, 2, 100 is very easily divisible, so 100% of something, is pretty easy to break down. And so I would love to see that. That should totally be happening. We should make something.
Yes. You know what? Sample her saying that. Sample her saying that. That's the beginning of the track right there.
Here we go.
So,
Here we
okay,
go.
so the review. I'm on Musicoin. I like what I hear. I send a comment, hey, this track is dope. I would love to do a derivative work. Now that's something I got from me contacting publisher. But I like to do a remix. I like to sample it. And then we go back and forth and they're like, cool, I like to use this section. And then they say, okay, you give me like 50% of the track of the coins coming. I give you 50% of the track, right? And then I get their original recording. I chop it up and sample it.
You guys would maybe need to agree who would be the one who would be responsible for uploading the
Who
track.
would post it? And see, there's flexibility there too. Thank you, because I could email it to you and you could post it on your channel, or I could post it on mine.
That's
or
right.
we could post it on both channels. And that's interesting too, because it might become that, like, here, if you let me sample this on your channel, you can take 100% of the royalties from it and just let me take 50 on my channel. So it's like, you could have two of the same track with two different contracts, right?
I don't think that'll work.
You can have.
Oh, you
Face
can.
saying no. Yeah.
That one's a little tricky.
And that's just weird. It's just weird. It's kind of weird.
No. So here's a question about that. So if you got two artists and they collab, do they both have to agree the percent before? Because that's almost like, is that how it works if you split it? So if I do a tune of Self Suffice, is there like a little button you go, all right, 50% each? We click it and then we both agreed. So there's no like, oh, he promised me 70%, you know, or something like that. There's no legal.
And it's transparent, right? Like I can see the percent on his page, so he can't say.
What I'm saying is, can I fill it in? But then you have no say in it, so you're just relying on me to be honest. So there's not a later date, you know. You say, well, no, I thought I should have got more than that, and it's like, well, no, you already agreed it. Does that make sense? Or
yeah, I mean, I think that agreement goes up front, right?
I mean, perhaps you would want to keep some kind of like your chat history, a copy of it or something. I don't know, on a Word document to just, I don't know, if you felt like.
I mean, if there was even like a little button that you almost have to go, I agree to this, and then, you know, it's linked to that person. Yeah.
With that person. I don't know. I know that you do need to specify, and the person who's uploading should have the authorization from everyone involved in terms of being like, I'm the one who's capable of uploading this track and initiating the PPP license for it.
Okay, and I've seen that. I know what you're referring to, because when every time I just uploaded 2 more singles of the new album. But like, there's a checkbox. I've seen that checkbox, and it says like,
there is
that you're authorized.
Okay.
Now here's a question that Neil brings up too. So I like the track. I asked we work it out. I post up, okay, 20% me, 80% you, whatever we work out. It's on my page. At a later date, I can update that.
I think you would need to have an agreement with that individual about what you can do.
No, but I mean, let's say we have an agreement. So say we say, like you said, a slide, like just like publishers do. We say, okay, for the first month, I'm gonna give you like 80%, but then after the second month, I like to give you 50%. Is that something where it can be updated, where we can change the percentages?
The terms of the PPP license. It's a good question. We should ask.
I can answer that though. Because that's what I just had to go through with the 4Unity.
Okay.
So when 4Unity did, that nonprofit organization opened up a Musicoin profile. And I took my song and I shared 99% of the percentage of the streams to 4Unity, and that ran for the duration of the campaign. So it ended in July. So in July, I went back and I edited the distribution. And you can edit it and put you back at 100% and things of that nature. So yeah, you can edit later on down the line.
I wasn't sure. Okay. I didn't want to speak if I didn't know. So.
Oh wait, you know what? Hold on. Let me share my screen, y'all. Let me share my screen. I got you right now.
Okay.
So here we are on the and tell me if you can't see it, but you should be seeing my screen right now.
Yeah.
So I go to this new track I have, right? Pardon the angry face. It's a concept album. Different emotions on each track. I'm not angry at it. And then you scroll down and you click on this button that says license details. When you click on that, it says payment. Now I try to click, nothing's happening. I'm like, Tamiko, what did I do? But then I go, boom, edit. And you click edit, and then you go in and change it.
Okay, excellent.
Oh.
Wow, so easy.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Shout out to Sound Phaser in the chat after you said.
I have one last little question actually. It's just like, so just to be clear on Musicoin, if you do sample something, you've got a loop from something that's not, you know, it's some old funk break, you know, you're not allowed that on Musicoin, are you? It has to be cleared. So your track should be taken down, or is that right? There's no, you know, no 100%.
If they don't have the if they don't have the permission and know the proper percentage, if they somehow negotiated with the publisher, and this is something that we were talking about, you know, if they've somehow negotiated with the owner, with the co-owner or co-creator or so on, and they have the ability to give this person their proper percentage, and they let them establish an account, tell them, okay, you should establish an account. There should be more of that as well. Yes. We don't want to say, oh, we don't want your track. But if you're an informed artist who knows what they've sampled, from whom they've sampled it, and how to, you know, communicate with this person, if you can get that agreement or deal in place with them, then yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to.
Sure, but obviously that the older the sample is, the less that's.
But I doubt very serious. I mean, I understand that that's not going to be most instances. In most instances,
no.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to make that clear though, because you know, you see that. Yeah.
Tangent.
It's possible, but yeah, we're far from there. So today. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, this ain't a tangent. This is a non sequitur. Do you have a Caribbean or Japanese background in your family?
I am actually what we call like Appalachian Melungeon. So I'm like a triracial person, Native American, Black, and white.
So Tamiko, like when I think of Tamiko, I just
Japanese.
thought.
Yes.
That is a Japanese. Okay.
It's totally Japanese.
Got you. Yeah, I got a last name Kelly, but I'm not Irish at all. So these things happen.
Most def.
You got some Irish in you somewhere.
Yes.
I got the luck of the Irish. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Lotto.
we just had the Musicoin Legal Counsel on MC Plays. What? I'm talking about
y'all industry people suck. Let me just say that. I'm sorry to tell you, you don't have a great legal counsel like we do.
18 likes. We need 2 more before the end of the show. 18 likes.
2 more? We gotta be able to
2 more likes. Come on.
2 more likes. We need 20 likes.
Someone in the chat surely not likes it.
A little love.
Somebody on the chat, pound that like button.
If we get 2 more, I'll do I'll sing a little bit.
She's about to sing.
Oh, she's gonna sing. There we go.
There goes 18. That's my number.
Copyright for it. Obviously you own. Obviously, you know, legally cleared songs, but
do we hereby have permission to sample what you're about to sing for a dope collaboration?
It's on MC Plays. We got the rights. Yeah, we got the rights. Don't mess with a lawyer.
Well, speaking of singing,
bit of an original.
All right, we got 19. Come on, we need one more. Hit the share or something.
Tamiko, hit that song. Hit that song.
All right, come on.
I have a question. I have another question. Not even a question, an announcement. We're working on a Musicoin song. It's called Musicoin Love. And we definitely would like TR to sing on it.
Yes, my pleasure. No, I was speaking with Martin about this a little bit. I'm totally
so you heard about it.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Yo, Pup just lit that track.
You know how cool that would be. Have you all heard? I was even thinking about this, the Kutiman.
Kutiman.
There's this dude Kutiman. You should totally find that. We can't put it on now, but the dude has this song called, well, he does a bunch of different songs, but the one that came to my attention that's just so dope is called Intergalactic Lovers. Intergalactic Lovers. INNER.
That sounds fun.
Oh, you have to like check this out. And the way that he collaborated, you'll see. We should do something like that for the Musicoin song.
Okay.
At first, I thought you said accoutrement.
No, yeah, I know, I don't speak. Okay, but like Kutiman, it's like K-U-T.
Oh, like Fela Kuti.
An Israeli DJ. I'm not sure, but I think so.
Wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
Let's go. This is
20.
possible.
20. There you go. We made it.
20.
Thank you.
The most likes on the live stream.
We're going to finish with a song then. We're going to finish with a bit of singing because since we made 20.
All right. This one's an original one. Okay. Where am I going to start at? Hey, the sky's open. Hey, the stars just keep on floating. Hey, distant light shine on bright. The nighttime sky, it brings clear sight. Far, far above, the sky's open. Hey, that's a little bit, just a little teaser.
Yeah.
We got the best lawyer in the world. Y'all suck. Y'all ladies need to
Yeah, you mentioned it, yeah.
together.
You
What
need
are
to
y'all
change it.
talking
You're now
about?
the singing lawyer.
We
I'm going to
got
call
the
the singing
beat on,
lawyer.
yo.
Yes.
She's in court clearing my sample. She's singing to the judge right now. I believe we're going to win. We're going to win that case. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Singing lawyer. TR has blessed the show. Oh, man. We got 21 likes.
Awesome.
There we go.
Oh, that's terrific.
Wow. We definitely had a great time. Great information has been presented on this show. Make sure everybody share, take a snippet or something, share it, and let's, expand, man. We got to keep growing and growing this show and this platform. We are, like you said, we in an opportunity, a space that's about to blow up and explode, and we are independently doing this. We're coming together as a community doing this, as independent artists. And now we just got the breakdown from our legal counsel on how to protect ourselves. And we good. We are free. Just like Soundphaser said in the chat, we are free.
Yes.
So do you want people to do you have an Instagram page people should follow, or does your company have an Instagram? Like, what do you recommend that it would be helpful for people to follow to get your updates?
I would suggest that people follow Vipo Online on Instagram.
Okay, just spell that out.
Not as active as I should be, so that's good. So the more people that follow, the more active I'll be. Let's put it that way.
All right, so just spell out that.
Vipo is V as in Victor, I as an intellectual, P as in property, O as an organization. So and then online, and you should find me.
Go.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you once again for coming. We got to have you back. We got to have you back.
No, thanks for coming on.
To come back.
Great show. Great.
Yes. Yes, I'd love to be back.
Next season, let's get you back on. Next season.
Any final words from our good brother DJ CW?
Well, I just want to say about next week, actually, before we go, just some of the guests we got on next week.
Yes.
Because a good friend of mine, Joe Moocha, is coming on. He was over in Uganda with East African Records. He's been working with talking about blockchain in sort of different sort of countries. So he's going to talk about his experience over there working with loads of artists, and we'll have a good old discussion about that.
Most definitely. And also, we're going to have a double header next week, actually. We're going to also have Asterios, our global ambassador and Musicoin artist. He's gonna come through and chop it up with us too. So it's gonna be interesting, and he's gonna play that instrument that I don't know what it's called, or organ or something. It's just beautiful.
This joints be moving.
Yeah, man.
I definitely keep this joints on my playlist.
Yes. So we
like
definitely
De La Soul kind of
heavy
rhythms.
hitters.
We had some at the start, didn't we? While we were waiting, we had a few technical difficulties at the start, so we had a little snippet at the start.
Yeah.
Sounding
so
nice.
Next week is going to be powerful. I also want to, before we go, let all of our Musicoin artists know that on this Musicoin TV channel, we are accepting music videos, live performances, and etc. But first, you got to make sure you have a Musicoin account. Make sure you have a Musicoin account. So
rappoet.com/joinmc.
There you go. Or CryptoKings88 /Musicoin.
We're making it simple for you.
Very simple. So make sure you go sign up, get you a Musicoin account, get your music up there, and then send your videos to musicoin@musicoin.org. I said musicoin@musicoin.org. And listen, if you are selected, there is a reward behind that. We haven't exposed the reward yet, but it will be some Musicoin. We just ain't gonna tell you how much yet. But let's get these entries in, and we're gonna chop that up on the next episode of MC Plays. I appreciate everybody for watching, all the likes.
Thank you for the like. Wow.
Our special guest TR.
Yeah.
Self-suffice CW, man, we did it again.
Yes.
Yo, this is what it's supposed to be. Take notes, world.
Let's go. See y'all next week. Peace.
Ciao.